Hello, this is Rodney Dowd again with another video on how to help make your groups more effective. And this one is called How to Get Your Group to Follow Ground Rules. And this is something that comes up even though groups sometimes will set ground rules. Sometimes the ground rules will slip over time or even within the first meeting they're already starting to slip. And so there's some great strategies that you can use that can allow you to help groups stick to ground rules. And this strategy comes from the Right Question Institute, which actually teaches children how to brainstorm with questions and use that in their learning. And they've done a lot of great research on this. It took them about 20 years to figure out all the ins and outs of their approach and testing and testing and testing. And one of the things they found is, and I'm going to just give you the name, it's Dan Rothstein and Liz Santana. And one of the things they found is, of course, you need to review the rules before you do any brainstorming session with a group. Of course, that makes sense. But then you reflect beforehand why those rules can be beneficial and why they can be hard to follow. So you do that separately. Why might these rules be helpful? Why might they be hard to follow? It doesn't have to be a long discussion, but you're getting people to reflect and think and process the rules. Now, if they have done this many times, you might not need to do this every time. However, in the early stages, you might want to. And this is a great way to get people to sell themselves on following the rules. There's some research into something called self-persuasion theory. And basically, if you get people to say, gosh, this is why it's useful, they're selling themselves on the idea, they're convincing themselves. And then you say why they can be hard to follow. There's research on something called mental contrasting that shows that if people have gotten some benefits into their idea and thought about why something could be useful, if they think about some of the obstacles in the way, that actually increases commitment to following through. And so doing both of these things can be very, very helpful. All right. And then one of the things, and this is not part of the Rothstein's approach, but it's something that I find is useful for adults, is to give each other permission to keep each other accountable. So the group leader, of course, can do it, or a facilitator can do it. However, if I have found, and other research has shown, that if team members keep each other accountable, they are more likely to keep procedures in their group and more likely to have effective group functioning. So you give each other permission to call each other. So if you have a ground rule that says no long stories and someone telling a long story, the group leader shouldn't be the only one to say, hey, remember, we're no stories when we're generating ideas. So a group member could say, oh, hey, John, remember we have a no stories guideline. So please describe your idea in 1 or 2 sentences and then move on. So whatever the rule is, you can keep each other accountable. Now, another thing, the Rothsteins, I don't know if they do this or not. I don't think they do, but I do. I like to do this, and some other experts tend to recommend this, is reflecting after. How did we do? Now, I know in general learning, there is research showing that people learn faster from the same amounts of training, the same amount of instruction, if they reflect afterwards on what they did that worked or didn't work. And in one study, they found a 25% increase in learning, even though they had less training time, because they took some of the training time away for this 5-minute reflection activity. So, and that's another thing. Reflection does not need to take long. You can do it for just a couple of minutes, say 5 minutes at the end, and reflect. And this can help solidify the learning and say, how did we do in this meeting? And also, how did we do in following the rules, following our guidelines? And were these guidelines even effective? And maybe somebody says in the reflection, there's one guideline I think got in the way. Maybe the next time the group meets, you can try meeting and omitting that guideline and see if that helped or doesn't help. Or someone says, here's another guideline I think we might add. And again, next time you meet, you can reflect on whether following that guideline really worked or not. So anyhow, you have now the strategy for how to get your group to follow ground rules. I know it seems like a lot, but of course, uh, reviewing the rules, if you have 3 or 4 rules, it's only going to take you, maybe 30 seconds. You reflect on why they can be beneficial. You just get 3 or 4 ideas out. It will only take you a couple of minutes. And why they could be hard to follow, another couple of minutes. And then the accountability that happens during the meeting and reflecting after happens during the meeting. And if you follow some of my other ideas in my other videos on how to keep meetings short and productive, you will have time. You won't feel too much time pressure that will keep you from following these guidelines. Anyhow, let me know if you find this effective. You can leave a comment under my video, whether you're seeing this video on YouTube or on scienceofgroups.com. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, in fact, I urge you to see more videos like this, click on the subscribe button if you're on YouTube, or go to my site, scienceofgroups.com, and subscribe there. And you'll get an email every time I produce a new video. All right. Take care.